Welcome to the Copernicus Data Space Ecosystem webinar with a focus on open satellite imagery in support of mountain sports. Today we will cover a range of topics, including an introduction to the Copernicus browser, uploading GPS tracks, creating time lapses, exporting and downloading high-quality images, and setting up a WMS. The topic will be presented by my colleague Andrzej Zlinski, whose presentation will be followed by questions and answer session. And Andrzej, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Andrzej Zlinski. I'm a community evangelist here at Synergize. I'm also a mountain lover. Probably a lot of you have a lot more experience in actual high mountains than I have, but I would like to take you through this introduction to Copernicus browser and show you a couple of things that you can do with the browser and in support of your mountaineering or mountain sports. Well, first of all, Copernicus Data Space Ecosystem, this is our main page. This is the data sharing infrastructure for Sentinel satellite imagery, funded by the European Commission, created by ESA and maintained by the consortium. But for you, probably the most interesting part is the Copernicus browser. So if you just, from the main page, explore data, click Copernicus browser, or you just type in browser.dataspace.copernicus.eu, then it's going to take you to this introduction page, and this is already where you can see a lot of mountains. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what you can do in a mountain area. We are starting here at Chimborazo. So you can zoom in, you can pan around just like with any map viewer. You can also select from various dates here in the calendar window. You will see, especially in mountains, that a lot of these dates are going to be cloudy. The ones that are not cloudy are in these blue frames, and you can change the level of cloudiness that you're ready to accept using this slider. And then you will see that the number of cloudy or not cloudy days is going to change. So typically, you go to your area of interest. If you click just the big green button, then that's going to load the latest Sentinel-2 image in true color. And then you can explore around looking at different points in time. We also have various visualization layers. This is near-infrared false color, which is mapping the near-infrared channel to red. So this highlights vegetation. This is highlight optimized natural color, which adapts the response curve of the visualization. What you see here is that snowy areas or clouds or dark places don't over and under saturate the algorithm that much. So we use highlight optimized natural color a lot. There's also a map of normalized differential snow index, giving you snowy and non-snowy areas, and we hope to return to this in a bit later as well. One final trick that we often do in mountains is to use the level 1 imagery instead of the level 2 imagery. These are individual correction algorithms, so level 2 images are also corrected for shadows and slope effects. If you are in high mountains, then sometimes these shadows are overcorrected, so if you use the level 1 data, then the image might be slightly more crisp. You see the shadows better, and it gives you a bit more information in the slopey places. Additionally, if you're in a place which has a lot of clouds, such as Chimborazo, another option is to use the Sentinel-2 mosaics. So these are mosaic images created from time steps of 3 months. And this means that we try to include only the cloud-free pixels. You see these white spots here. These were permanently cloudy during this period. And so this allows you to explore places seeing through the clouds in high resolution, which are actually normally quite cloudy. So, well, what can you do with this data set? I'll give you a very simple use case in the first place. So one gloomy afternoon, I'm sitting in my home here, just northwest of Budapest. Everything is cloudy, and it would be really nice to go out for a hike. And so I checked Copernicus browser. This is a Sentinel-3 image. Sentinel-3 is collected every day, right? So you see there's an image every day. And I wanted to check whether this mountain nearby is actually above the clouds. I think we all love this effect when you're on the top of the mountain and the clouds are below you and you see this beautiful sea of clouds. And so this little mountain of 500 something meters, Pilis, was nicely above the clouds, as also other mountain ranges in Hungary. And so we went up with my family, and it was really nice. So this is what we saw. So actually, it's possible to use Copernicus browser to prepare for your trip. The principle is in mountain climbing always to go for maximum safety. So you are collecting evidence from many different sources. You are maybe asking local people, you are checking web cameras, you're checking tour guides, but Copernicus browser can be one source of information in this portfolio of information, and then you can weigh the evidence and make some decisions. Let me give you another example. A colleague of ours recently went climbing on this Klettersteig route in the Alps. It's quite a high place. It went up to Hochkreuz. And what happened was they actually had to turn back from part of the route. They ran into problems because there was a lot more snow than they expected. They had to skip part of the route and climb back down, take a taxi to reach another valley, and then go back up. So this is the area in late June, a couple of days after their trip. So what you see is that quite large parts of this mountain are snowy. Is this normal or not? Well, this is the typical conditions a year before. So on the 22nd of June, 2023, this area had a lot less snow than it had this year. So last year, this would have been a safe bet for June, but this year, this was too snowy for that particular team and this particular route. So what you can actually do in this situation is to look through a series of images from the years before and from the same season, and compare it with the current or the latest cloud-free image. And that allows you to estimate whether your area is going to be more snowy than usual or less snowy, whether you're going to risk the trip, what to expect. Let me give you another example. Here is a place I have always wanted to climb. This is Lefka-Ori, White Mountains in Crete, in Greece. And so this is a dry limestone plateau. It goes up to more than 2,000 meters. This is a winter image, so you see that some parts of it do get quite snowy. But in summer, it's extremely dry. So it's very difficult to climb this area unless you're ready to carry all your water. So what can you do? Well, it's actually possible to create a time-lapse image of the area and then investigate the typical snow cover conditions. What you do is you go on this little film icon. You click the play button. And then you want to set the time range. We don't have the full year for 2024, so we're going to go for 2023. We're starting in the beginning of January. We're ending in late December. We only want to deal with images that cover the whole site. We don't want cloudy images. And we want maybe one image every week, not to overload the system. And so we're doing a very quick search. And here I have a list of images from the area. Some of them are going to be cloudy, but first let's play the GIF. So if I just click 37 images, let me give it 2 frames per second. If I just click play, you will see that this is a time lapse of the conditions in the mountain. And you will see that the snow changes quite a lot during the year. It's quite dramatic. There's not too many patches of snow that last through the summer. So what is actually the right time to climb this area? Well, my suggestion would be to go either in mid-April or early November, when there are already some patches of snow in the sheltered places, so you can collect snow. You can melt it for drinking water, but the area is not completely snowy, so the conditions are not that difficult. This is again another way to use Copernicus browser to prepare for a climbing trip. Another thing we often see when we are preparing is videos on the internet or in the news about some disaster happening. Let me share you one of them here. So this is a crevasse in the Aosta Valley near one of the huts, near one of the mountain accommodation places. This is the view from a helicopter, and according to the captions, this has recently happened in a very short time after a downpour, after a rain event. So is it still safe to go to the area? Well, let's check. So the actual house is this little spot here. And the crevasse is over here. It's this area. There's also a way to compare satellite images directly. What you can do is add to compare. So we have one image in compare now. We want to look back a couple of days before. Is it the cloud-free? go back to June. Yes, here we are, adding that to compare as well. And now we shift over to the compare view. We zoom in, and it's possible to look at the shape of the valley before and after the rain event. So you can see that this gully is quite massive, and there's also a lot of sediment that's been washed down river, and the sort of the floodplain of this little river has expanded rapidly. The house itself seems to be safe, but you have to take extra care if you want to hike this route. Or another similar case of a rockfall in Switzerland. I'm not going to watch the whole video, but what you see is that this pillar of rock is disintegrating, and it's going to fall. There's already some activity, some small landslide going on. And then as the situation escalates, you will see that the rocks are moving further down the slope and possibly also affecting the hiking route. Quite large boulders are moving downhill. And this is where most of the rockfall is happening. So a large tower collapses, and the next tower close to it also falls down. So can you actually observe something like this in satellite imagery? Well, not the actual event happening, but the situation before and after it. This is the location. This is the area after the rockfall. And in the very same way, you can create a time-lapse animation, and you can see the change as it happens. So now we are before the rockfall, and this is the tongue of material of rock that has fallen down after this little peak here has disintegrated. So you can see this actually does affect the climbing route. If this is the path you want to follow, then you have to take extra care. And it's actually possible then to sort of quantitatively evaluate the effect of such a rockfall if you hear about it before your trip. Another example, this is a wildfire which recently happened in Slovenia. Here you can see some smoke, and you can sort of guess the area affected, but if you go to the shortwave infrared visualization, then it's going to show you the actual burn scar. So the red area is the area affected by the fire. Another setup, this is a highlight optimized natural color image of a place called Zinal in Switzerland. And as you see, these glaciers have systems of crevasses and quite rough topography. So this is relatively safe to traverse if you know what you are doing and if you can see the crevasses. But if there's fresh snowfall on the same area, then of course you wouldn't see them. So again, comparing these images before and after the snowfall allow you to evaluate the risks of visiting this area, of looking at the place. So these are a couple of ways to scout a climbing route or a place for a mountain activity before you actually go there and be a bit more prepared, be a bit more safe. One thing you can actually also do, if you have already been through your trip, is to put your GPS track on top of the image. What we see here is a cloudless quarterly mosaic. So I'm not trying to put it on the most recent image because it's going to be cloudy, but the cloudless image from July 2023 is quite fine. And so there's many different things you can do. You can measure distances or areas. You can select the areas of interest, but what we are doing now is to select a line of interest. And here it's possible to directly upload a GPX file. So this is a trip done by a friend of mine, and as you can see, the route itself is directly loaded onto the mosaic. So you can sort of relive the memory of the trip. You can explore the conditions around you. You can get a bit more of an understanding of the places you've been to. And you can actually also look at the elevation profile. So if you just click at the elevation profile button, this is the result you get. And a recent addition to the browser, it's also possible to download these images. And if you just want to download a basic image, then you can actually add the line of interest on top of it. So if you want to share your trip on social media, or if you want to create a nice wall print, then it's possible to feature your route directly from the GPX track. So I think that all these opportunities to look at satellite imagery of mountains, they actually add a lot to the fun. It's not just the safety, of course, part of it is preparing for your trip and ensuring you are safe, but also exploring the landscape, having this view from above, which we all love from the mountain peaks, but also from space, gives us a bit of a different connection and a different understanding of the landscapes we visit. And finally, I want to show you how you can actually add satellite imagery to handheld mapping applications. I use an application called Locus. It's free, but there are also many other handheld smartphone-based mapping applications that deal with WMS systems. The key to this is the OGC standard, the Open Geospatial Consortium standard, which allows you to create a stream of data or a stream of images that mapping software can deal with. So this works in the following way. If you open up the data space, of course, you have to log in. You have to register for this. And then here under Analyze Data and Sentinel Hub, you have a dashboard. And in this dashboard, it's possible to create a configuration. This is the configuration utility. And so here you would go for a new configuration in this case. You are creating this based on existing configurations if you already have some. The easiest one is to go for the simple WMS template. And now we are creating this configuration. There are some layers which are added by default. If you only want to use the Sentinel-2 mosaic, which is always cloud-free, then it's probably a good idea to just remove these one by one. And then we are going to create a new layer, which is going to be based on the Sentinel-2 cloud-free mosaics. It's a bit tricky, but it's worth it because then you get no clouds. Okay, here we are setting up a new layer. I am naming it Cloudless Mosaic, and the source is not going to be Sentinel-2 L1C, it's going to be Bring Your Own Cog. This is like a custom data set that we are going to input using its own code. So the collection type is going to be BYOC, Bring Your Own Collection. And we have to take the collection ID from the documentation of the data space. So if we just go to documentation.dataspace.copernicus.eu, here under data, Sentinel-2, we will find the Sentinel-2 mosaics. Here we are. And then we need to click this link, access Sentinel-2 level 3 quarterly mosaics with Sentinel Hub. And this is giving us the collection ID. So we copy it and we paste it here into the collection ID in the dashboard. We have to delete this part with the BYOC in the beginning. So now we are connected to the collection. We also have to set the visualization or the data processing script. Again, for this, we go to the custom scripts repository. And here we select from the datasets Sentinel-2 quarterly cloudless mosaics. You go for true color. And this is the script which is actually used by the browser or by the WMS to visualize the data. We copy it. And we go back to the dashboard and we paste it in here. Here we are. Now it's possible to set a relative date if you want to look at the most recent image or an absolute date. I'm setting a range here simply from January 2023. But we are looking at the most recent image. So we are saving this as a configuration. This is what we had to do so far on our own computer. And now under service endpoints, you can select WMS and you can copy this. I can't really show much of what's going on my phone on screen, But if you open up your mapping application, there's going to be something like a map manager or a map layer window. In Locus, it's called the map manager. And this has an option to add a WMS or WMTS image. If you just click on it, then you select Add from Library. Then it offers you an option to directly enter the WMS link. So this link that we just copied here has to be entered straight into the WMS interface of your mapping system. And then you have to set your credentials, your name and password for Copernicus Data Space Ecosystem, and you're good to go. This will allow you to actually view Sentinel-2 mosaics directly on your smartphone, on your map browser. This is the information I wanted to share. Thank you for watching, and I am ready for your questions.
Thank you, Andras. As always, a great presentation and a lot of useful information. So let's proceed with your questions. We have one from Tom. He wants to know, would the 3D option of the browser be compatible with the display of a GPS track?
Not yet. This is a nice idea. It came up during discussions already. I will ask the front-end team how difficult it is to implement this, because I see that there's a lot of interest and very pretty images can be created, but it's not working so far.
If you have a question and you would like to ask it, you can also raise a hand and I can unmute you.
Thank you for the presentation. I was invited here as I am a mountaineering instructor and also enthusiast outdoor recreationist, we can say. And actually, to tell the truth, I'm usually using those softwares which are mostly used by other outdoor sportsmen. Everybody knows Strava and the Googler stuff and these things. And for me, it was completely new, the whole presentation and this whole new world. And I was a bit shocked to say that, like how I could use. Actually, the only takeaway message now is that if I have any questions to use it, I will approach Andras. But for the first time, it was like not that user-friendly as I was used to with the other softwares. So it's not a real question, but maybe a single one that would it be a goal to this development to be this kind of Copernicus data will be easily used by masses of people or sportsmen, or is just an option if you are well trained to use it?
Well, we are trying to make this as easy as possible. We really, really want to make a very user-friendly interface, and we want to make the data accessible in the true sense of the word. So not just for people who have remote sensing experience, not just for people who have a college degree. We want to make this data readily available at your fingertips. And I think integration to other handheld applications is part of the story, and using the browser is another possible way to look at the data. If you like to play with QGIS, it's also possible to put the same WMS layer actually into QGIS. So that's also an option for people who work with that. For questions, I'm happy to talk about mountains and satellite imagery as always. But I think if you post your questions in the forum, that's going to benefit a lot more users, because then it's going to be more visible and we can answer and you can follow up on the answers in a sort of a more transparent way. So we are trying to encourage everybody to post their questions in the forum instead of posting them in YouTube comments or other ways. Actually, I have a quick update on the tracks in 3D. My colleague Grega wrote that if you ingest the line as a bring your own cock collection using the Bjork API, then it's possible to overlay it as a raster layer. It's a very tricky workaround, but for some applications, if you really want it for, I don't know, ridgelines or rivers or whatever, it might be useful. But we will see what we can do with the 3D view, because it could be really popular. I don't know if Strava can take a WMS, because I haven't really used Strava yet, but we can check.
For further questions, feel free to use our Copernicus Data Space Ecosystem Forum. We will be happy to assist. Stay tuned and follow us on social media for future webinars. And thank you for being with us today. And a big thanks to you, Andras. So see you the next time.
Thank you for joining and have a lovely summer in the mountains, everybody. Goodbye.